These things, you have to have at least 5 credits electives. You also have to get up to that 23 level. So it might mean you have an extra science, extra electives, whatever. But you should ask that. Well, I will. First off, we'll do the pledge. And Karen, would you like to lead us to the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I ask for sharing privileges, please?
All right, next thing is public comments, and I don't believe we have any tonight.
Yes.
Oh. Okay, even though you're the commissioner,
Yes.
you're supposed to fill out a little green paper.
Oh, green paper, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, technically, we're trying to treat it the same for people that are not in person, they're online, and so the cutoff is 3 o'clock today in the communication that went out.
Oh, to testify today?
So then it's up to the board whether they.
We'll make an exception
Thank
tonight.
you so much, Chair Wells. I really appreciate that. So are we good now then? Do I need to fill out one of those? I signed that other sheet.
You're good for now. We'll get the meeting going here and then.
Lillian is the key.
So if she has to have one of those, yeah, so.
Okay, perfect. All right, we're good to go?
Yep.
Well, hello, Chair Wells and school board members and Superintendent Halliday. It's good to see you in person. I'm Nancy Wise, Benton County Commissioner and Chair of the Board of Commissioners. I'm here for 2 reasons today. Number one, I wanted to introduce myself to those of you that I haven't met in person yet. And if we haven't met yet, I would love to get coffee or have a phone call or a virtual meeting. I'm interested to know, get to know the local leaders in the community and hear what is important to you. Number 2, I understand that you are preparing for your levy renewal coming up in November. I wanted to offer whatever help that I can. We're not getting endorsement, etc. The county is planning our Justice System Improvement Program for JSIP, a bond for May 2023. And we are grateful that we are not going to be on the same election as your levy. We don't want to jeopardize either of our measures by doubling up. JSIP is the most important project going on in the county right now. And I won't try to share all the details with you, but if anyone is interested, we can always talk about it more in the future. So from myself and from the Board of Commissioners, thank you for putting your levy on November 2022 ballot, not May 2023.
You're welcome.
And I have with me my friend Sheriff Dan Arzon, Benton County Sheriff.
Hi, I'm Jeff Ennis. I am Benton County Sheriff. I'm North Sheriff. When I first started in law enforcement, I could sit in this chair with all my gear. I can no longer do that. Anyway, I just want to echo what the commission chair said, that I am grateful that you guys will be in November and we'll have an opportunity in May to possibly put this before the voters without having to interfere and compete with Philomath as well. My first home I brought my kids home to was with Philomath. Philomath's very close to me. And so I appreciate your time this evening. Same, if you guys want to ever get together, sit down, have coffee, whatever, figure out who I am. I'm more than willing, as Brad can testify to, I have an open door. You're more than welcome anytime in the sheriff's office. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I thought maybe she was afraid of flowing and had.
She said it's a little rough on this. She grew up in a residential over there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again.
Yes, you too.
Okay. Have a good evening, Sheriff. Thank you. We're going to go to reports and correspondence, the association reports, PEA. There he is. Hi, Lynn.
It's just very briefly, PA will be holding its election, so next time we have board, that'll be our new slate of officers for next week.
Okay. Thank you. OSEA.
I'm Laura Shun, co-president with Amber. Next week, the 26th, we have our first in-person bargaining meet and greet, so we're excited to get the ball rolling on that.
And then we classified and put together a week's long celebration for teachers. So we have, which we're not going to say because we're surprised. But we have that in the works too. That's about it.
Good deal.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, student government report. Good evening.
Bye-bye.
Good evening. My name is Dylan Bell and I'm the ASB president at Fulton High School. Thank you for allowing me to present tonight. I just want to start this off by saying congratulations to this group for doing a wonderful job directing Crazy Town this past month. The cast and crew did an amazing job as well. Also, 2 weeks ago, we had a very successful blood drive. We were incredibly pleased with the turnout and generosity of both students and staff at this event. We were able to give tons of donations to the Red Cross. Next Friday, April 29th, ASB is excited to announce that we're putting on our first in-person dance in over 2 years. It is a spring fling and we're going to have a DJ, games, and snacks available for us. Next week, leading up to the dance, is going to be a spirit week with lots of fun activities and dress-up days to really get the students excited for the dance. One of those fun activities is our annual lip sync / talent show. This is again something that we haven't been able to have for a couple of years, so we are really excited to be able to hold it next Tuesday at 9 a.m. We will also be hosting our spring sports pep assembly next Friday before the dance. This gives our spring sports teams a great opportunity to share their successes so far this season, even though a lot of it has been rained out. We'll also be able to see their previews for the upcoming season and hopefully their run into playoffs. We had a state champion in both the fall and winter sports, so hopefully we're able to continue that into the spring sports season as well. As we near the end of the year, ASB is also starting the process of elections for next year. So we are going to be having our elections May 16th. So hopefully by the time the next board meeting is around, we will have that. Thank you for allowing me to present to you guys tonight. Is there any questions for me?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Joel.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Next is the teacher appreciation proclamation of Teacher Appreciation Week. And I will go ahead and read this. Teacher Appreciation Week is celebrated every year during the first full week of May. The school board wishes to make this proclamation of appreciation. Whereas teachers mold future citizens through guidance and education, and whereas teachers encounter students of widely differing backgrounds, and whereas our country's future depends upon providing quality education to all students, and whereas teachers spend countless hours preparing lessons, evaluating progress, counseling and coaching students, and performing community service. And whereas our community recognizes and supports its teachers in educating the children of this community, Now therefore be it resolved that the Paloma School Board of Directors proclaims the first week of May to be Teacher Appreciation Week. And be it further resolved that the Paloma School Board of Directors strongly encourages all members of our community to join with it in personally expressing appreciation to our teachers for their dedication and devotion to their work. Adopted this 21st day of April 2022 and signed by myself and Superintendent Halliday. Thank you very much to all the teachers. Thank you.
Susan, do you have your volume, do you have your sound? Here, right here, you're on me.
The sound should be off.
It started doing it when you put up the.
Technology. Okay, we'll move on to the superintendent's report. Hopefully, we won't have the same issue.
You just turn off the sound on your computer. I'm supposed to came up for the meeting.
Didn't turn on that one.
You know, sorry.
You okay?
Go ahead.
All right. I wanted to echo the appreciation of our teachers as our report today. With the National PTA talks about teaching as a work of heart is their theme this year. And it's been a year or two that we've got staff members that keep students safe, healthy, nourished, and learning no matter what. So we've gone from in-person to virtual to hybrid and back to full-time again. And it's been a lot of lift. And one of the things that I thought about is the notion of being able to have whole child centered teaching. And it's hard to realize that sometimes I'm so focused on what I need to teach academically that to pay attention to some of the other things that students might need, I have to think about in a different way than I normally do. And it truly is an extra heft in the workload. And so teachers have been a big part. The chamber today, we talked about the district at the chamber, and one of the things was also the notion of we have, you know, families who also became teachers with us, and so the relationships have all shifted and moved, and I think in the end run we're all better for it. But it's very much an appreciation of our teachers and the things that they have done, and so the May 2nd through 6th truly is an opportunity to celebrate our teachers. I wanted to make sure to put forward also our 2022-2023 student meal updates, because it will be something that we need to share with our families. And it is because meals have been free throughout COVID. And beginning in the 2022-2023 school year, that federal aid for COVID will not be available. And so we will be ending up moving back to the need for families to apply for free or reduced price meals. Part of what we will do is a strong encouragement of the application for the free and reduced price meals. The other thing is Corvallis School District, the food services, our meal provider. They are also participating in a program called Oregon Extended Income. And the intent of that program, which has some slightly different income guidelines, is that it will allow an extra larger percentage of students to be able to eat for free. The students that qualify for the EIG program will not be considered, they won't be listed as a yes on our free and reduced lunch because that's a whole different set of criteria, but they still will be able to eat free, if that makes sense, because of the different criteria. So it's going to be the encouragement of families to be able to make those applications and for us to be able to take care of business in the way that we can to make sure that our students have food each and every day. In the summertime, the meals have always been free to anybody, and it will continue that way through this summer. But we really want to be able to make sure that it's known that there will be some changes afoot for the fall. Collective bargaining, like our OSEA representatives talked about. We have an opening session on Tuesday, April 26th. And it's just, like they said, a meet and greet. It's the opportunity to be able to introduce our teams to one another and establish some ground rules and some future meeting times. Representing the district from the board will be Anton and Joe, and our administrators, Steve Bell and Brian Traylor, will also be a part of that group. So we'll look forward to meeting with that group for the first time on Tuesday evening. It's coming fast. Summer learning, we did find out that there are funds available for our grants. We've actually submitted the application for our summer learning funds, which basically is, here's your allocation for K-8 enrichment, here's your allocation for 9-12 academic support. Are you going to apply for either one of them, yes or no? Submit your application. So it's one of the easiest ones that we've ever had to submit. What the plan at the state level is, they are going to take a look at who does not apply and then look at redistribution of funds if there are places that have not applied. So there's a possibility for additional funding. If you remember last year, we had more funding than we could ever hope to spend. It just made no sense. And so it's more in a reasonable realm of possibility. So we're starting to get to a place of readiness to share plans with families. We've reached out to staff to be able to find out who may have interest in either the high school academic support or the K-8 enrichment to be able to support that. We know that there will be credit recovery opportunities for high school students beginning June 20th and ending June 30th. It's a very short window, so we're going to look at a second opportunity available in August. The short window in part is because of a later time to get out of school this year, but also we are shifting to a new platform, a technology platform, a new program, Pearson Education, and it goes online July 1st. And so we don't want students to get started in something and then have to close down one and start up on another. So there will be those opportunities. And students in grades K-5 are going to have the opportunity again this year to participate in a literature camp. That camp will be 2 weeks in length instead of 4 weeks in length. And we're looking forward to that. And then the other thing right now is putting out interest in camps. We had somebody work with students around reptiles. We had science, technology, art, engineering, art and math, so STEAM or STEM if you take the art out of it. Some classes last year we had a physical fitness. I mean, there's all kinds of things that were week-long opportunities for students that were seeking staff interests to see what people want to do. We're also looking to LBCC to be able to see about opening up some of their camps that they run for students that our students can access. They have a great connection right now with Albany and some with Corvallis, and we want to look at being able to get from the more rural communities, our students the opportunity to be involved in tuition in. So we're excited about that, glad we have an opportunity, and glad we'll get some resource to be able to make that happen. The next thing I put in here was just some medical notes that I would like the board to consider, and we're not, certainly no decision this evening because it hits on a lot of different fronts. We had discussions at our superintendent's meeting last week, at our leadership meeting this week, and our nurses have had the conversations about the increasing use of fentanyl and other drugs with overdose potential. And so the conversations have included the consideration of placing Narcan or naloxone, which turn on a dime, the overdose, in the office of each of our facilities. Because of the nature of that type of a drug and that kind of a consideration, we don't want to enter that lightly. And so we'll want to have additional conversation with the board, really in how we feel and what that looks like, just because it is such a big heft and a big decision to be able to look at. In our group of superintendents, we met last week, and I'd say there were 8 that had plans to move forward to be able to implement in their school offices. We know that it'll involve training, and we know that it will be a small window. The conversation was, can an ambulance be there? There's a 2-minute window for an ambulance to be there. Can we work faster? So it's all those considerations of being able to say, it's unfortunate that we have to think about that, but is it something we want to consider for our schools? I don't want to do that without being very open as we move forward.
Can you put that on a discussion item for next?
Yes.
meeting?
Yep, can do. I wanted to reference adjustments with Lynn Benton Lincoln with our Education Service District. In the announcements of releasing updates to the state school fund calculations, Senate Bill 743 has to do with inclusion or not of virtual public charter school students. We have a couple of very large online or virtual public charter schools in our region. One of them is in San Diego Canyon, Mill City. The other one is in Scioto. And because they've lost enrollment and the way that the count happens, we learned March 24th that the ESD stands to lose about $1 million out of this fiscal year. So it's a 21-22 hit. So we've had conversations. Fortunately, there's reserves, but it has the potential to impact our funding for what they call our tier 1 and tier 2 services. So the tier 2 services are things that we buy. We have a meeting with LBL next week that we will continue our discussion. The loss for us isn't $1 million. It's proportionate to our enrollment across the region. So, we don't have to worry about being absolutely drained with that, but it has some impact for us that we're watching out for. And it may not be a lot, but it's all the things that we're listening for to be able to know where and how we put our resource with LBL. So as we have more information after next week, we'll be able to share that with you. AVID, the advancement via individual determination, we've been absent from that for a few years, and part of that has been no sessions have been happening. So we have 2 groups, small groups, that are going to attend this summer. There will be a group going to Seattle, June 27th, and a group going to San Diego, July 26th. And like I said, they're small groups, but it gets some people that have not been trained in schools the opportunity to be a part of that. And I have to say a big thank you to Danae Newton for pulling it together, and to our travel agent Lillian Edmonds for being able to make sure that everything is getting done and we're within budget and things are all taken care of. I did put in here the district calendar. It is later on the agenda. Number 5 on strategy and discussion about a calendar revision. I just wanted to let you know, after reaching out to our calendar committee and both of our licensed and classified organizations, there will be no changes. So the calendar will remain the same as we set it up for 22-23. The mention of the local option levy, and it was just a reiteration of the timelines. I have been in conversation, and I'm hopeful that it will end up continuing to work for us to be able to ask Christopher McMorrin in our office if he would help, or in our district, if he would be able to help us lead the charge as we move forward within the local option levy for the district. And so we're trying to put together a meeting to be able to put together the pieces. Nancy Weiss has already said, if he's form a pack, I'm there. I did meet with Jim Kilday. He gave me all the information from the past, and I'm putting together the information about all the promises we've kept in the last 4 or 5 years from the local option levy when it was renewed before. And basically it was saying we aren't going to cut staff, and we haven't. And so putting together that factual information to be able to share, and being able to continue to move forward with the local option levy. And I appreciate Christopher for responding to my email, because he could have just blown me off. So
I take it he said yes, he would take the lead on it?
Yes, we still have to chat with the rest, but yeah.
Yep, cool, thank you.
My pleasure. I say that now.
we'll see if he answers my email in a month. So I also put in here, we're going to talk more about this in May. Jolene Lance sent me information about our media highlights. And she wanted to make sure that there was information about, there are things happening as a result of that position being added back to, or added to us this year, that the media assistants have updated the library book selections, and they've reorganized books to make them easier for students to find. They keep doing a collection analysis to make sure that the books that students are using and checking out are the ones that we have. And so there's a look at circulation like we've never had before. One of the most exciting things is there's online resources, and especially looking at K-8 digital citizenship and internet safety. And being able to actually be in classrooms and work with students, especially at our elementary level where there isn't a formal technology time or technology curriculum that has been able to be put together. And so we're going to be able to hit on internet safety and things like that much earlier than we have. And so it's pretty exciting. Also, the receipt of a grant award to update fiction collections at the middle school and the high school. So we can see that there are things that have been happening, and this certainly isn't all of what Jolene has been doing, but wanted to really be able to put out what those media highlights were. The next thing I put in there was just updates of calendar, and we have our COVID vaccine clinic again tomorrow night. Thank you, Mrs. Couture, for standing in and holding down the fort, and the Spirit Week, and all the way through of being able to look at things that we have going on. So it's a busy spring that we have coming. So that's all I had within my report.
For you, anybody have any questions? Okay. We will do Director of Finance report.
Good evening. You all had your fiscal reports in the board packet, so if there's any questions on those, I'd be happy to answer. You can see our enrollment has stayed pretty much the same every month lately, hasn't gone up like we were anticipating. Board member Gudge asked me earlier, last week or the week before, if there was some way we could show an enrollment history. So I put this together real quick so we could see over the last 10 years what our enrollment has done. And we were on a pretty steep upward climb, and COVID hit in 2020, dropped a lot, and we haven't recovered yet. So that leads into discussions we have about budgeting and state school funds, and we're just not getting enough funding because we just don't have the enrollment. Hopefully next year it starts coming back and our enrollment comes back, but as we're working on the budget this year, it's a little tough to fit everything in for next year. We've kept everybody whole, so we still have the staff that we've kept through all of the COVID times, even though we don't have as many students. So just working on the budget, trying to get that ready to go for next year. And our first budget committee meeting is May 12th. I'll have the budget, the proposed budget, Susan and I have been working on. We'll have it published by May 5th for the budget committee to review. We'll have our meeting to discuss it. Hopefully everything will fit in. There is one more piece in the board packet, a resolution to approve. And I just want to give you a little background information. It's on the consent agenda. We received extra grant funding from the Coronavirus State Fiscal Recovery Fund. Of a lot of words in there. It's federal funding that's been funneled through our LDL ESD office. It will be used for additional transition services for our special ed students. So we need to appropriate these funds, so the board just needs to approve the use of the $175,000 over a 2-year period to be used for extra transition services. So when we get to the consent agenda, that's what that one's about. Any questions?
Thank you for including the year-over-year information for me.
Hopefully that's all for all of us. Yeah.
And we're finding that across the state, that's not uncommon, that there are a majority of districts who are losing students. And what they're finding is that the loss is going primarily to private schools and homeschool. I mean, as a matter of across the state. And people are choosing for whatever reason to stay there. And so it's watching out for what that means and what that looks like. So there's a lot of concern.
Okay. Moving on, strategy and discussion, school end of year updates.
All right. I love these administrators that I ask and say, can you do this for me? And there it is. And it get to slideshow. So we're going to start with Abby.
All right. I typically bombard the board with a lot of data and show you how much our kids are winning, but I took some sleep today and I thought I'd share some fun things that are happening. So the top left corner, you'll see a slide. We have been out of commission with a slide for a few months due to some vandalism. So we were able this week, Joey and Ryan put a new slide up for our students, and that opened up this week, and our students are so happy. And so the slide is back in business and getting a lot of views already. Bottom left corner, you'll see 2 pictures there. We have been busy for probably a year trying to pull together all the stuff we need to do a community garden at Clemens Primary School. So we finally, a couple weekends ago, had a work party, and myself and Miss Kelly, when we first showed up that morning, it was just the 2 of us there. And we thought, well, we expected lots of families to be there to help us. And I thought, oh boy, this is gonna be a lot of work. We had a very big pile of dirt to move and all those trucks. Well, it turned out that a number of families ended up coming after we put out a APB to the Facebook page. And so then there was plenty of help, and we got that all done. So the picture on the left shows the troughs in a flower shape.
And the center is going to be planted with flowers that kind of, it looks like a fountain, so it'll overflow. And then each outside petal is for one class. So each class has been already growing the seeds with a program that comes in once a week. They teach the kids all about gardening and planting. So they've grown all the seeds in the class, and now the kids get to move them out to the garden. All the tracts were donated by the Selects Tribe and also the Food Hero program at OSU. And then our amazing forestry program, the boys and Simon came and they cut the wood and delivered all of those little rounds that we use now for an outdoor classroom for the kids to sit on. And then they cut the smaller logs that we use, and it's gonna be a perimeter all around the outside of the garden that we filled with gravel. So it's been a big community effort and we're super excited. The top right 2 pictures. So you all know that we have Piper at the school as our emotional support dog. Piper has had 3 puppies, and those 3 puppies are now in their forever homes. But there's a picture of the puppies. The students have got to see them through the window in the office and watch them grow, and have been so excited. It's been a fun time watching the puppies. And I'm very thankful that they're all with their forever homes. Now they're a little bigger. So all 3 of them went to families in the district. So Jen and Debbie Johnson got one, Peggy Ring, our family liaison, got one, and then Melissa Molesky, a first grade teacher, has one in her house as well. And then on the bottom, I just wanted to give a shout out to our amazing PTO, because our chocolate-a-thon was able to profit over $20,000 this year for both Clemens and Columbus Elementary School. And that is huge. So our amazing parents have done a great job, and it's been really fun working with them. I just have to give them a big shout out. So great things happening at CPS.
What was the goal for the Jogathon?
Jogathon, the goal was 10,000 between the 2 schools, and we did much better.
Fantastic.
It's awesome. Brian, we got you.
All right, yeah, before I get into my little report, I just have to say something to this community. I was in Corvallis for 12 years and I'm Muddy Creek. Philadelphia is a gem. I didn't have no idea working and living in Corvallis, what a great district this is. So I'm bookended by 2 amazing administrators, really a thoughtful board, a leader of heart. So it's a pleasure to work in this district, and I thank you guys for all that you bring to us and how you support us.
Thank you.
So if you want PES and VES, spring update. We're at 343, kind of that trend of lower enrollment. I couldn't read your numbers up there, but I need to more.
You're kind of small.
VES is at 22. Our regular attendance rate this year isn't too bad. 93% of our students have attended at least 90% of the days. With a bench caveat, that is that COVID absences do not count as absences. So the child was in quarantine, they were not counted as absent. And we had 215 quarantines this school year alone. So you times that by 5, there's 1,000 more days of kids in this school. Staff did a great job of keeping kids connected through online resources or take-home resources. We tried a variety of tutoring models to keep kids engaged. So, and it's calmed down dramatically. I think we might have 1 student in quarantine currently, if even that. And then, just had our parent-teacher conferences. I thought that was a really great experience to see families coming in. 82% of our students, our families, had a conference in one format or another. And by the count I got from staff, 188 of those were in person, mostly on Thursday, not entirely, but a constant flow of people coming into the building. And what a great feeling that was to have mom and dad and little brothers and sisters in the building. Next. And my colleagues, I tried to follow Abby's lead. I had a ton of data. I was going to keep up with her. And Steve puts his out, and Abby puts his out. I'll get rid of the data. I'll get that to you guys in June. And I had some photos. So I quickly scrambled and got some photos. They don't necessarily all tell the story the way Abby's do that. It's really great photos, kind of capturing the spirit of our school. That lower left is a mural outside our gym that the students did last year with an activity representing Mary's Peak there, as you can probably tell. The courtyard flowers in the middle. The one on the lower right is says, if all you see is disability, you will miss, and each of those is a puzzle of a child with various characteristics of that child, creative, thoughtful, good at math, whatever. And so I thought that was a cool bulletin board. And that's a 5th grade science project. That's a model of the sun. And as you go down the hallway, you get the different planets or solar system to scale. Kind of a cool thing. So then, yeah, what's going on at BES and BES and return to normal? And I thought, no way, it's really returning to amazing. So energized community, students, parents, staff. I put 23,000 out. I think that is an accurate number, over 23,000.
I think you're right.
The March Shy Fund, which again, mind blowing. Then they just did mini grants to staff, not to spend this money, to spend money they currently have. I think about 2,000 went to PES staff. I think you got 1,000 at CPS. And then lots of events happening. This is just a list of some of the big things. 4th grade versus staff basketball game next Tuesday, 26th. I won't be able to play, I'm a referee. 3rd grade Arbor Day, they interact with the city. Teacher appreciation was mentioned. 5th grade Golden Falcon swim. Lots of field trips. It's been really cool again to have that happening. 3rd grade versus staff, thank you, dodgeball game. That was based on a little fundraiser we did where students brought in change towards yearbook costs. We're doing a big yearbook this year, fall yearbook. Music performances, 5th grade celebration and transition to middle school, smarter balance assessments, of course, are going on. Life safety is returning after being absent for the last 3 years, 2 years. The 3rd grade bike ride at Avery Park. We're going to go see the middle school's Lion King performance. We're excited about. Then artists and residents being set up for late May. 4th grade egg drop. Meet the teacher day is. Last year we did a step up there. Kids actually met their next year's teacher. And pretty good event. We're not sure of our staffing situation as much for next year. So we're going to have each grade go up and meet the team. So all the 2nd graders will go meet the 3rd grade team, but we won't designate who their teacher is. So it should be a real positive experience. And of course, more. So thank you very much.
And I walked into a peep toss
Yeah.
the other day. That was
Steve
fun.
Catapult, yeah, 2nd grade science project.
Mr. Bell.
Thank you. All right, middle school, so just want to give you a glimpse, and we put this sort of together, as, pictures worth 1,000 words, trying to explain everything that didn't need to be explained, so you get the idea what's going on. As I was talking to Chris before the meeting, talking about how sort of cramming a lot of things that would have happened in the fall, sort of put them in the spring or the winter, in the spring, and so it's a hopping time right now. We're actually trying to put together a Friday all school sort of assemblies, do our grade level assemblies, and the only Friday where there's not a group gone or a thing happening is not till May. We would normally have done it, this coming Friday to celebrate the 3rd quarter and transition to 4th, but so it's kind of neat that we have so much stuff going on that we're pushing things in the calendar. So these really just a lot of just events-based activities. We also have Smarter Balance starting up next week, state assessments, and all the other academic activities. But the one on the left, first one is the 8th grade tours. Our whole 8th grade class is going to OSU. Half of them are going tomorrow. The other half are going on April 29th for tours at Oregon State. And people ask, well, don't they go over all the time? And so we've done this for a few years, and what we find is most kids do not actually go on OSU's campus and take a tour. Especially an academic tour. If anything, they go to football stadium or baseball or Gil Coliseum. And a lot of kids actually don't do that either, And so, so it is, even though it's very close, it's a very valuable piece for them to see a college campus. And then our band and music choir actually went to Albany yesterday for a festival. Band, 7th, 8th grade band went to OSU today, and then 8th grade band's going to Newport next week. So those festivals are happening, which is wonderful. Again, a couple years without, so good to do it again. Outdoor school is happening for our 6th graders, May 2nd through 6th. We're not doing residential, it's day camp. We weren't ready to venture into the residential again yet, especially since we were planning this back in the winter, not knowing what we're going to get into in spring. So we are going to go to Tadmore each day, so it's day tripping.
And we're looking forward to that, and that's happening soon, very soon. The Hero Challenge, which is usually a fall activity for seventh graders, used to be called Boys and Buddies, but then that got trademarked by somewhere else, so we changed it to Hero Challenge. And it culminates in half the day being at OSU on their high ropes course. And again, it's really around relationship building, bullying prevention, inner strength, inner confidence, a lot of those themes. And it's led by Mr. Panico, our school counselor. Lion King Junior is back, having a performance. And so doing something a little nuts, performing the last week of school. And actually the first performance is on the last day of school, and then the evenings after that. In order for us to get the team of coaches together to do it, this is when they said they would participate if we could do it at this time. We said it's nuts, but let's go for it, because we want to do it, we want to offer it. And so they're practicing now, so we'll see how that goes. We plan to transition back to our winter time next year. If all goes as we hope it will go. And so won't be as great. Spring archery is back. We had fall archery, in the spring, and that's just been a great addition that Mr. Stevenson leads for us. And it's just sort of a unique thing, right? It's kids coming in and learn how to shoot bow and arrow in the gym. We also do it in a PE activity, but it is after school. And in the fall, we had 40 some students who want to be involved each time. It's once a week. Spring is very busy, so I heard yesterday the turnout was around 20. But how many schools actually have archery after school, on campus? Probably not very many. And you get all kids that come to this, all ranges of abilities and desires, in town, out of town, experienced, non-experienced, and that's great. Next week we're also having Spirit Week. I didn't know the high school's having theirs too, so we're also having Spirit Week for kids. It's always a venture in middle school to see what you get when you go down this road. So we try to put out a teaching of some level of expectation, and hopefully it will all be fun and silly and with a good heart. So that's so there's just some of the highlights of things in middle schools that have happened in our company.
Do we have data yet on how many students have opted out of the Smarter Balance testing for this year? Or we will not know till we're done?
We have received opt-out letters and notification. So those are coming in and have come in. Probably we will get more as we get close to the day.
Okay.
But the number, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I do know it is more than 2 years ago.
Okay.
It is.
We've already started some of our testing. We have less than 10, and about half of those are special ed.
Okay.
What's being seen across the state is primarily high school, that they're finding an inordinate amount of high schoolers who are choosing to opt out. And, part of me wonders if some of it is the essential skills requirement is not there right now. And, it's been put on hold for a while. And what other reasons it might be. So we are taking a look at that to be able to see what the impact is. Fortunately, I don't believe they're looking this year for the 95% participation rate at the school, because if they were, we'd be at some of our schools dead in the water if that was the requirement.
So I have a question. Historically, one of my favorite things that I've gotten to do at the middle school is career day. And I just looked it up to see when the last one was, and it has been 2 years. Are you guys planning to do it again next year, or?
So has not been discussed, except for we weren't doing it this year. We haven't talked about next year yet.
Okay.
And so if we do, it'll probably, we'll look to site council and to be a real big pusher on that, and probably one of our big goals if we go that route. It would be time. We're past due.
Yeah.
So
I think it's a very valuable program to have.
I miss the serotonin of getting the packet of letters in the mail afterward. That I have every single letter that any student has sent me over the 6 years, 7 years that I've been doing it. So
Yeah.
they're very meaningful to me, even the ones where they were like, I don't think I want your job now, but thanks.
Gotta love that.
Okay.
Mr.
anything else?
Belleville.
I,
Oh, he's on.
can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. The first thing is I think I picked the wrong building. This doesn't look very fun at all compared to what other schools are doing. There's a lot of activity at the high school level this time of year, and the big pieces around that kind of that race to graduation. I'm not going to go line by line through that, but just to give you an idea of kind of the upcoming things and the pieces that are in place at this point. I think our student body president mentioned a few of the things upcoming. We are going to do a junior senior prom on May 21st. I tasked Mr. Mata with organizing that. He used to be my friend. I'm not sure he still is. Anyhow, it'll be at the Scout, is it hut? I'm not sure exactly what the right name of it is, but he's got a group of juniors that are doing a great job of pulling all that together. So that's kind of where we're headed in terms of graduation. Last day for seniors is the 9th. Then just a few other things. Obviously, we've had a tremendous winter sports season with a state championship and other trophies and place winners coming back. Had a very successful student run play this spring. Spring sports are trying to get started. We haven't figured out how to play softball underwater yet, but we're getting better at it. Just this evening, actually, we're able to hire a science and a math teacher. The process has begun, at least. We're still, next up would be PE, health, Spanish, and then a special education teacher. So lots going on in that area right now. We did just a kind of a reset in March in terms of how we started the school year and how the normal culture of the high school is. We needed to just have a conversation about it was kind of time to get back to normal again. And we've been pretty soft about attendance and some of those kind of things. And so we made some adjustments there, and kids have responded well. Teachers are doing great with it. The principal's advisory team is something I've done in schools that I've worked in the past. And I just have been able to get that group together recently. And really, I try to gather a group of students from different social groups within the school. And then we meet a couple times a month, and I get input from them and ask them for feedback on some of the ideas that we're working on. That group is actually going to help us tomorrow. There's 10 of them that are going to do about a 15-minute interview with each of the candidates that we're interviewing for principal tomorrow. They'll meet with the candidate first and give the candidate a tour of the building, and then they're putting together questions that will kind of hone a little bit in the morning so they're ready to go. But that's been a great way for me to get to know some kids and understand maybe some of their perspectives about things that we maybe could do better in the school or things they really appreciate. From a professional development, we've been really working on some cultural awareness things, worked a lot on student connections, took a look at every single student in our building and what teachers and what coaches were connected to them, and then identified kids that maybe didn't have connections and created kind of assignments for teachers or staff to make connections to those students. We did talked a lot about 8th to 9th grade transitions with our middle school partners. We have another meeting coming up with our 8th grade teachers to really talk about making sure kids are placed in the right classes as we start high school. We hosted with Steve's cooperation from the middle school, we hosted all the 8th graders on April 7th. We took 2 groups at a time. They went through 4 stations where we talked to them about, they did their forecasting or started their forecasting for classes. Talked about the ABCs, which for us at the high school level are attendance, behavior, and credits. They went through an activity fair with Mr. Mata, where they could learn about the clubs and the activities and things that they could do in the high school. And stop and think what the other one was. And then our students took them on a tour through the building and all the CTE programs. So they had an awareness of kind of what's available at the high school. And then we followed it up with a parent meeting that evening and kind of went through the same presentation so the parents know what we talked to their kids about. We're in the thick of state testing. We finished science. Weren't a ton of opt-outs with science. I think the word got around and we have a few more opt-outs for English. And my guess is a few more will line up when we get to math. So we're working hard at it, but you know, we want to get some baseline data established so we have something to look at in the future. So from there, in my role, we've really been looking at systems and how we implement systems in the high school. What I noticed coming in is that a lot of things are done by people. So this person knows how to do that thing. And so we're trying to kind of systematize that so it's not dependent on one particular person, but that everybody kind of knows how to do the things that need to happen. And then beyond that, I'm actively kind of planning for a handoff to a new principal. And so we're excited to interview some really good people tomorrow evening, and hopefully we find the right person. And that's it, unless somebody has questions for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question.
I just got the one more with Fulham Academy.
I was just gonna say the one thing on the systems planning and implementation, that's like the last one. I know when I was at the high school, there were a lot of things that I knew how to do that I don't know if anybody else did. So that's that concept of let's make sure that there's more than one person that knows how to do crucial things is actually very important.
The Academy is having its own graduation this year. Like we talked about last year, they'll do their own thing on Friday, June 10th. Excuse me, at 7 o'clock at the auditorium. We're watching right now enrollment at the Academy because it has dropped to some degree with the high school students. And some of it we believe is I have to be enrolled in trimester 3 at Fulham High School to get a Fulham High School diploma. And so there has been some movement with some students to be able to say that Fulham High School diploma is important to me instead of the Fulham Academy. So we'll see if that's truly the case. GED completers, there's been 13 to date, and they've been recognized in ceremonies. And it's been pretty awesome for people to be able to celebrate an accomplishment. They are working state testing through grades 3 through 8 and 11. And so they have completed quite an array, a good turnout, again, a number of opt-outs that continue to come through. And some of that, the state testing this year did have a virtual option for students to participate. The intent was not to have every student do it that way, but that's something that will grow into also. Beth Edgman, the counselor, took the Fulham Academy students to the LBCC's college preview. And so we're getting students interested back in LBCC. One of the things that I was talking to someone today at the chamber meeting about, a number of students, you'll find community college enrollment down. During COVID, some of high school students found jobs and they like that income. And if I can't be on a campus or go to school, then I might stay with my job. And so we're starting to see now that things are opening up, students being encouraged to embrace the possibility of some further education. So hopefully we'll see those numbers change and grow. And Mrs. House at the elementary level continues to meet with students as she does home visits and Zoom sessions, as well as some in-person things. And proud of the ability to meet those needs for the students in that level at the Academy. So I hope I did this justice to share for Dr. Johnson because he's not feeling good. So, so that's kind of the, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to put that in there. What we've talked about is we've tried to be real thoughtful about the evenings for our principals and the commitment of having to be everywhere, every night. And so have really not had the presentations before the board consistently, but wanted to be able to plug the reminder with what's happening between now and the end of the year of the heart and soul of our district is the schools. And to hear about what they're doing and what's happening where the rubber meets the road is just important for the board to continue to hear. So thank you for the indulgence and thank you to principals for putting that together. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it too. Thank you very much. Okay, ready, school safe learners update.
What about graduation plans number 2, or was that already discussed through the high school?
Yeah, I thought.
Oh, the graduation plans?
Is there anything other?
Yeah, it's really wanting to be able to make sure that in information, Brent Belleville, Mr. Belleville sent out information to seniors today that it will be one ceremony.
Okay.
And that it has outlined when the practices are and all kinds of things like that. So I'll make sure that gets forwarded, but really there was not a lot of time we wanted to spend on it, but it was really being able to say it will happen. It's going to be a single ceremony, that the plans are moving forward in that way. So wanted to make that public knowledge so that everybody knows what's happening.
Okay.
So Philomath Academy's graduation will be on the Friday night and Philomath High School's graduation will be on the Saturday. Thanks for asking.
Sure. Now we can move to number 3.
All right. Hopefully not as much to report on this right now. Wanted to go through and take a look at just kind of the common practice of what we go through. The Ready Schools Safe Learners Resiliency Framework was last updated on March 29th. What the updates address. And one of the biggest things we talked about was the language of masking in healthcare settings. And so in our health rooms, we are practicing face covering when we've got kids in our health rooms because it is a healthcare setting. When we talk about in counseling offices where mental health counseling services are delivered, that really has been determined to be our third-party mental health service providers. So the people that come to us from Benton County Mental Health, from Trillium, from some other places, that is really formal mental health counseling. And that's where we had to put our decisions, but we wanted to make sure that we were very clear on where we were going there. Again, it's the update on the Oregon decisions. We know we've got like a 78.3% vaccination rate, 157 cases per 100,000, and 8.2% test positivity. Some of you have probably read in the paper that Benton County was the high one. But the thing that we also have to remember is that Benton County has been notorious in a good way of being able to seek out the PCR testing. And so Benton County actually tests at a higher rate than many other counties. And so when we see those cases, some of it has to do with the amount of testing that's happening. So we constantly keep up to date on what's happening with the cases that we know of in our schools and are monitoring it that way. We still continue to be low as considered from the CDC metrics by county. I put in the most recent update we have in terms of case counts. And so you'll see the last one, we had 2 at Clemens Primary, and we're not seeing cases in other places as yet that we know about. And we're starting to see colds and allergies and all the other things that go along with that. For information updates with our vaccination clinics, one is tomorrow. We've got dates scheduled in May, June, and July, and they're really placeholders if the need continues to be there and the population shows up, we will continue to be able to hold those. And we'll keep moving from there. Right now, there's a push to be able to have people, if they haven't gotten a booster shot, to get a booster shot. And some people are now eligible for a 4th shot, or a third if you've gone the other direction with the Johnson & Johnson, but to get a second booster. So they are prepared for that and ready to go. Face coverings. We notified families on March 3rd that the face coverings in our schools would be optional on March 12th. And to date, I'm happy to report that the transition has been quite seamless. That we've got most people that are choosing not to wear face coverings, but there's still a number that are choosing to keep them. And it's nice to share kudos to our schools for handling that transition. A number of the adults in schools would talk to students in their classrooms or wherever to say, I am choosing to do this for me because of, I'm choosing to wear a face covering because, I'm choosing not to because. And I just haven't heard any of the put downs or the shaming or anything else like that happening that we really had to push back on. I think my bellwether today at the chamber lunch was the students of the month from the high school, that when I mentioned that there hadn't been great issues of picking on people for their choices, I had high school students nodding their heads yes. So I figured I was pretty good on that one. I also wanted to put in there though that the city of Philadelphia, they reinstated their indoor mask mandate. And they are getting a great deal of pushback, but we're continuing to follow what's happening as people make specific choices. So just needed to put that out there. In looking ahead, we're hoping that we can begin 2022, 2023 in the same manner we're ending now. The intent of the state right now is to sunset the Ready Schools Safe Learners Resiliency Framework and documents. We will have a requirement to be able to have a school level management plan for each of our schools and programs, and be able to make sure those are posted on our webpage. They're kind of like the safe return to school plans and things like that. So there'll be comparable plans. We'll have a template, if you will, and we'll just answer things specific to individual schools. So there's more information coming from the state about what that would look like. But right now, we're feeling good about where things are and how we're continuing to move forward with COVID. So that's where we are there.
Okay. And OSCA PSD bargaining, I think we already covered that.
Right, and it was just watching to be able to make sure that if we didn't have an OSCA report, that it was announced that we are beginning next week, and we're ready to engage in the dialogue to be able to take a look at what's important to each group, so that we know going into it that we don't have different expectations. We want to be real thoughtful about that into our future with any group we bargain with, and making sure that we all know up front where we are and what we want to do, so that at least it puts us working on the same thing instead of being at odds with each other potentially from a beginning. So want to be real thoughtful about that.
Calendar adjustments.
There are no adjustments. We thought there might be, but there are none. So
number 6, professional development review.
yeah, put together. Where did we go? I got what I need here. Oh, there. I wanted to put some things out for professional learning, and I went to our licensed collective bargaining agreement to be able to take a look at their article that talks about the number of in-service days and the number of early release days as kind of a start off of where we are in our conversations. So in this year, in our in-service week, what we did was we weren't quite ready to have everybody come together in a district venue together for a meal when everyone was still wearing face coverings. And so what we did was any of the district or the district professional learning activities were done via Zoom to schools. And so people met in their own schools, and we delivered the in-service via Zoom in that way. The district had 8 hours of professional learning, the schools had 4, and as per agreement, classroom preparation in those 3 days, teachers had 12 hours, so a day and a half, to be able to make sure that classrooms were prepared. So we're having conversations about what makes sense for us into the future. What did we learn? What on Zoom can continue? What about getting together and things like that? The additional in-service days, I just listed the dates to be able to know that we've covered the base on those, with being able to make sure that we have our various conference and grading days and opportunities for that. Our early release days for this year are on our Friday afternoons. We've had 27 total days, and as per agreement, 9 of those days, 5 of them need to be team days, which can be a particular content area or particular project that may cross schools or it may not, where teams can get together, and it's not something that's school driven necessarily or district driven. So we've had our technology teams get together sometimes on those days. We've had different content area groups get together on those days. And then 4 individual days where individual teachers can make the determination of I want time to do professional reading. I want time to meet with my counterpart who teaches in the same area that I do, and we will spend time together, but that's how we're choosing individually to spend our time. And then it leaves us with 18 other days for school or district activities. The past 2 years have been a lot around, especially last year was a lot around COVID recovery and the heft of being able to do hybrid instruction and comprehensive distance learning. We're still in that mode with COVID recovery. I can't tell you the number of times I've heard we have students that are behind. They're behind academically, and many are behind socially. And so those are things that we have to work on. And it's just an added twist when you're used to teaching what you have been, to be able to then add that other element and expectation. And so there's been a lot of need to be able to address those things. We've done some curriculum planning, equity and inclusion. Brent talked about systems and things like that. We've done some instructional materials review. We do our statewide assessment training, our data look and planning for response to instruction and intervention, school climate and culture, social emotional learning, and I said including the DESA implementation. And DESA is a kindergarten through 8th grade screener for social emotional attributes in students. And that's planned to be done twice a year. So it's been new for us this year. Special education I put in there because Don Norman has met with our special educators consistently at different times throughout the year. And so that's been addressed. And then student support teams. So the look at what's happening attendance wise, what students are under the radar that nobody seems they don't seem to connect with anybody and who knows them and is willing to be able to provide that connection. So there's been a lot of that in being able to make sure we don't have students who get lost. They have to work pretty hard to get lost. And so there's been a lot of that and a lot of staff stepping up to be able to say, I see that student in thus and such a situation. I'm happy to do that. So, as we look forward to 2022, 2023, we want to get back to being focused rather than being scattered. One of the things as we started looking at the calendar that I put out with our leadership team, I had like 8 or 9 different things at the bottom. And we said at the very beginning, we can't do 8 or 9. We got to do 2 or 3 and do them well. And so we want to be real thoughtful in that way. A couple of things in our conversations as we plan. You know that Measure 98 is the High School Success Act, and some of the things within that, we have what's called a corrective action plan. And the things that they want us to be able to work and focus on in this coming year are teacher collaboration around data, systems to support on-time graduation, and the equitable assignment to advanced courses. So making sure that our students, any student has the opportunity to be able to access advanced coursework. So, and that's beginning in our high school in terms of conversations about who's not set to graduate. The high school has looked at attendance data, has looked at grade data. We've looked a lot at enrollment data and what are class loads looking like, and a whole myriad of things like that have been able to be put in front of the schools. I know our elementary and middle schools have also looked at attendance. They've looked at grades. They've looked at a whole myriad of different things. One of the things that we've worked on with our leadership team, with our school leaders, has been looking at a book study called Leverage Leadership. And the importance of that for me says, great teaching is what makes education effective, and quality instruction is a key responsibility. And so what I have asked for is to try and minimize a lot of the external stuff. So our principals can be instructional leaders in the schools to support our teachers to be the absolute best they can be, which makes our students the best that they can be. And we're doing pretty darn good, but it's kind of that's the direction we want to push, is make sure we're not getting stuck in too much stuff. So those first two kind of leverage together. The other that I've taken a look at, we talked at the beginning of the school year about whole learner instruction and being able to take a look at the health, the learning environment, the students engaged in their learning, supported, being challenged academically and prepared, and being able to look at all the different attributes that we need to be able to pay attention to and try to be more intentional from a standpoint of, rather than saying, you know how to do that, just do it. That we need to be able to provide the support to be able to make that happen. And so it's really that we're starting to do the planning now to be able to take us into the next year with being able to have a focused intent that's not simply COVID. So that's kind of what I wanted to be able to share in terms of what we're thinking, what we're looking at. So any questions, comments?
One self-evaluation. Sorry, guys.
I got it. Thank you.
I thought you were gonna present to us. I haven't been around the last couple of years to see how they've been doing this, but I think I can talk to Lillian and figure out what they've been doing last couple of years for the self-evaluation for the board. No?
I don't think we've actually done a self-evaluation in the years that I've been on the board.
You what?
I don't think we've completed a self-evaluation in the years that I've been on the board. It's been, like everything else, affected, I think, a little bit by COVID.
COVID, yeah.
And I mean, we spent a good portion of 2 years not even meeting in person. So I mean, we just didn't really have that dialogue at all.
Okay.
process.
We added that to the agenda because it was on the calendar.
Yeah,
And we didn't want to miss it, and if we need to be doing that, it's about adding that back. So if we need to look at process, then we can certainly do that.
I think we should do.
Is there anything in the law about that, or is it just for good management?
Just
Yeah,
good
okay.
management, it's not something that we have to do, but I think it's a good tool for the board to use to do a little self-evaluation. That doesn't have to be really super in-depth or anything, just kind of a broad brush thing, and maybe we can do that when we have our retreat. You know, we can combine that with the retreat and,
Talk about how we've been doing and how we want to do.
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. So, I mean, that's just my idea, so if anybody else has something, I'd be more than willing to.
No, I think it's great. I think if and when we have that, maybe having a little something ahead of the retreat, so we can take time, and then the retreat is kind of focused on what we've come to as opposed to doing it during the retreat.
And we can kind of put the questions or whatever, the survey out there ahead of time, and then when we have the retreat, we'll have the answers and can have a quick discussion on it. And, yeah, I mean, it doesn't, to me, it doesn't need to be something that takes 45 minutes or something. It's just a 10 or 15-minute discussion on things and how things are going and how the board members think we can improve the board meetings and what we do for the schools. It is what I'm thinking it is. So just something simple and quick. Okay. The local option levy.
Yeah, I think we've done some conversation about that already, and the dates we put out. I've proposed, based on schedules that Christopher and I have talked about, to be able to take a look at sitting down again with Jim Kilday and Shelley Brown as a player in the last iteration of the PAC and things like that, just to be able to have the dialogue about how we continue to move forward and recruitment and things like that. So
Are there any community leaders or business leaders that we want to reach out or that you have already reached out to?
I have not yet, but that's going to be something that will be a part of what we need and want to do.
I'll be
So,
bothering everybody.
yep.
There's a lot of people there at that luncheon today that be interesting to talk to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the place.
Yeah.
Chamber.
Yeah.
So, okay, that being taken care of, start the superintendent evaluation. And I had a quick conversation with Susan today, and my thought on this is that we can put together some sort of questionnaire that the board can do and the staff can do, that we can keep it so that it's, nobody knows who's answering the questions. So anyhow, that's what I'd like to do, and I don't know if I can work with Lillian on that.
I started
Or who would be the person?
I started to put together a superintendent evaluation based on last year, because you and I had talked last month about being able to have some way of responding, and so I just went back to last year.
We have something already in place.
Well, yeah,
And have to
and
read the wheel.
So the things in last year's that were primary were the ratings of the leadership standards for administrators. And so, for instance, the first one is visionary district leadership. It gives some descriptors. There's the opportunity to rate it, and there's an opportunity for comments. And so it would go through all 8 of those. And then it would go to the goals that I had established when we talked in the summer with retreat, and ensuring equitable opportunities for students and opportunities to be able to put comments in of yes, this happened, no, it didn't, anything like that. And so this could all be adjusted based on, or cost, dependent upon whatever you might want to do. But based on Rick's and my conversation, it was a start to be able to get at a tool for gathering information.
yeah, so the way I see this playing out is that the board will meet in executive session, because it does discuss an employee. We'll come to a consensus in there on, how we want to report back. I'll have a conversation with Susan about, everything. And then we will have a report at a future board meeting of what we came up with. That way then it's very transparent. Everybody knows that we are looking at the job that she has been doing and, set some goals and whatnot. That'll be part of it. I'm sure there'll be some goals come out of the evaluation. So, I mean, that's kind of the way that I see it. If somebody else has any, you guys have been on board last couple of years, so I don't know if that's how they've been doing it or.
I was gonna say, yes, I would say that that's how we did it in the most recent superintendent evaluation.
I think
The team worked well.
I thought you were done.
So we're gonna be giving them a
Question on process, just with regards to the evaluation format. Would we have that conversation in executive session prior to it going out?
Not necessarily.
So if I have comments, I should make them now.
What's that?
So if I have comments, should I make them now about the process?
Yeah.
Okay, so one piece that I hope from the survey perspective would be to, if possible, if everyone feels comfortable, have it aggregated by kind of board feedback, what I'm gonna call direct reports feedback. So those are the direct report to Susan and then the rest of the district. Because I think those groupings will allow for, different contact, right?
Yeah.
So as a board, we have a different working relationship with the superintendent. The direct reports obviously have a more probably close day-to-day working relationship than your average educator or instructional assistant or, custodial staff member and that. So I think it'd be helpful, if possible, instead of just having to be one big
Divided into the three groups.
three buckets.
Yeah, no,
if possible.
that makes sense.
If we still feel like there's enough response that it can be, anonymous and folks can feel comfortable, I think that would be helpful.
I think you just put in those, like you talk about the buckets of being able to say, board, are you representing the board, are you representing direct reports, or and then there's still no identification. I mean, the hard part is when you get to, excuse me, for instance, Blodgett, and you got two teachers that have to answer as teachers. It's pretty easy to figure out who they are. So without having to report a location, then that makes it worse.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Okay.
That answered.
So we'll have to try to figure out when we want to meet as a board, if we want to do it prior to the next board meeting, so we don't have to have an extra meeting. And then just, incorporate it in that for a short session and then, come back in June with the results from everybody. And I can visit with Susan pretty much any time in between that, and then come back at our June meeting and disseminate it out to the general public. If that sound like a good
works for me.
Okay.
In the past, has it been disseminated, like, I'm just thinking about logistics, like send the survey out via like email, but then people can print it out and turn it in anonymously or something like that, or how logistically, how has the surveys been done in the past?
Yeah, I'm not sure with the collection of information, but I know when the survey responses came back, we met in executive session to kind of review the detailed response.
Sure.
And then at the board session gave an overview so that there wasn't, particular comments in the long form portion. We could speak to generalities or statements as opposed to, line item by line item. But I'm not sure about if it was a physical document, or if it was all electronic. I recall it being all
You can
electronic.
send it out electronically, but you wouldn't want it coming back electronically, because then it's identified as to who via email address.
That was my concern to Susan, is how we, we can send it out electronically, but then need to come back in some sort of paper form or something so that we can do it, unless there's a way that we can.
I think the setup can and I'll have to check it, can allow for, do you want to collect email addresses from the senders or not? And I would say or not.
Yeah, no,
So if that's an
yeah.
option, but I also would like to have a paper rendition available for people that don't have access, but that's a good point, I'll check that out.
Okay, and our IT team should be able to help with that, because
Oh, yeah.
I've taken surveys where it can be, you know, you have to have a code to get into it, but that code isn't associated with you necessarily, and that way, it's not just anybody that could have it. If you send out an email, then anybody could fill it out.
Right.
But so they may have a resource that allows for that.
Yeah, if we can figure out how to do that, I'll let Susan take the lead on that and
I'll play a little bit.
figure that out, how we can do that so that nobody's identified
Right.
on their responses.
Then I'll have Lillian educate me on how it really works.
Okay. All right, well, moving on from that, everybody good with that? Okay, OSBA conference, July 8 through 10 in Bend. Is anybody going to that? Karen, Karen. Okay, and Susan, so. I'm not gonna be able to go to it, so.
We have at least one, Karen, you said you're going, okay.
And Aaron is as well.
Oh, yeah. And in the past, it's always been very, very educational, even for somebody who's been on the board for a while. I've been over to them before, when I've been on the board for a long time, and it's still, I learned a lot of new things, so. It's always good.
It sparks excitement as well, like
Yeah.
renewed energy.
Well, and this year, you know, you actually be able to get to meet face to face with a lot of the other board members around the state and have conversations. So, I mean, that's really gonna be a big plus. Number 11, the MOA with Paloma Family Medicine.
Yeah, I just wanted to update, it's been a while since we have, our nurses have to operate under the auspices of a provider, and we've always been connected with Paloma Family Medicine. And so, our nurses actually connected with Dr. Black at Paloma Family Medicine, updated the MOU. We now have updated prescriptions for EpiPens to be able to make sure that we have current in each of the schools. And so he's the script writer for that. And it's a real simple MOU, but I just wanted to report to the board that everything's updated. The nurses feel like they have a good connection and have somebody to be able to work with. And Dr. Black turned back the agreement very quickly. And so we feel like they feel like they've established a much better relationship moving forward. And it's just been something that has kind of been a back burner. So I appreciate their work to be able to make sure we're back up to speed and have a really good connection.
Okay. Moving along, action items, the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve?
We didn't have to make any adjustments to it. There was a discussion earlier.
Yeah, I want, but I don't want to do that after the motion.
Yeah, well, we get a motion second, then we'll discuss.
Also move.
Second. Okay. Been moved and seconded. Now we'll go to discussion.
So one item on action item 3I, triple I guess. Just talking about having an engineer overlook the boiler plans, and at least my intent was to just have an engineer put a stamp on the project as opposed to a rubber stamp. So, you know, an engineer physically puts a stamp and that's their, I guess, kind of signature that they agree that this is the right way to go. And I guess the phraseology of rubber stamp applies to me more just kind of passing it through. So I just wanted to, if I made that statement, my intent was to just talk about it being a stamp as opposed to a rubber stamp. So that was a correction.
Okay. Anything else? Hearing nothing, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Policies, second reading, action can be taken on any of these. So do I hear a motion to approve one or all?
I would move to approve all, assuming there are no concerns from other board members. Or I mean, we can get to those during discussion and stuff.
Yeah. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. I have one thing, and I don't know, I got it, it's a policy, which one was it?
The last one.
IKF.
56.
Yeah, with the graduation requirements. Scroll down here. Right on here. And it just has to do with the
math of that.
math, counting. All right, where did that go to? Had it. Now you have to be smarter than what you're.
You have your page numbers up there, so it's like 57 and 58.
Is it 57? Okay, on page 57, it says diploma, and then it says no, review the standard diploma requirements. It appears the credits add up to 25 rather than 24. I actually came up with 23 and a half. So I don't know if you get the half credit for the CASW/senior project, and you don't count the one that's going to be implemented in January 1 of 2026, the civics, the half credit, you don't count that, but I come up with 23 and a half, and I counted several times, but I did go to Crescent Valley, so I'm not sure if that has anything to do with it.
I believe that the language says that the credits include at least the following, so the difference would be elective credits.
Okay.
Is my understanding of it.
Yeah, so that, yeah. So it's just a matter of you have to have at least each of these things, but you can have more, and the more generally comes up in electives.
Okay, so my question is then, do they have enough course offerings to get the 24 credits in?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. So I just want to make sure that everything was covered there. I was sure there was, but just want to make sure. So, okay, any more?
Well, sorry, while we're on that policy, I noticed under that, it jumped from 5 to 7. Should there be a 6? Because 7 includes 2 different things. The 1 credit in physical education and the 3 credits in career and technical education.
And that could be that's the.
One should be 6 and one should be 7.
One should be number 6 and then the other should be number 7.
Yeah.
Can I interject?
Sure.
So when OSB sends this out, they don't do all the numbering is not necessarily
Right.
correct. So then when we send it to them, then they correct all of the formatting and the numbering.
Oh, okay. Just that was just a reminder.
That's good.
Okay, cool.
Well, I did notice that it had physical education and then 3 credits in technical education. And it's like, well, that's under the same one, but I guess it's okay. So, all right, so no more, yep.
I got a couple different policies. Sure. So I'll stay on that same page 57, Lillian, this may be answered, but it looks like, as we go through 1, 2, 3, 4, all of a sudden 4 has a whole bunch of subsets that don't appear to be related to US history. So like, 4F is fine arts, second language. It feels like that should be, continuing numbering down there. Does that make sense? As folks are seeing, top of page 57, 1 credit of US history. By going A through I, it implies that that is associated with US history as opposed to, they all appear to be, they should be 5, 6, 7.
It should be. It looks like, yeah.
Something to that effect. So it's really a formatting question, but I just want to make sure, I don't know, to me it stood out. That I thought maybe that
Yeah, no, you're spot on.
could be
that.
corrected.
Yeah, okay, yeah, good point.
And then I think, on the bottom of that page, 9, item 1/2 credit CSAW. I don't know anywhere that we call out CSAW, but we might want to spell it out.
Yeah, because I'm not sure what it's.
The acronym?
Yeah, CASW, what does that stand for?
I'm not the only one.
Maybe
So
we
I'm
should
glad-
spell it out.
Yes, instead of.
So that everybody knows what
Right,
it is.
Or.
Do you know what that is, Lynn?
Well, it says /senior project, so I'm
Right.
assuming it has something to do with the senior project.
Oh,
It used to be called the CASE project.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is a typo
Career
that we
and
noted.
service education.
Should be E rather than W.
Yeah, and
Case,
we-
yeah, right.
We talked about that because last year, the senior project credit was changed to an elective credit that showed on people's transcripts. And so we asked that question, and it was, the senior project doesn't look the same as it has. But there are still some requirements, and so students have the opportunity to earn that, and it will show on transcripts for this year, so.
I don't remember what the case acronym stood for, but.
Career awareness something, but I don't know.
What's that?
Career and service education.
And service education.
Okay.
Okay, but yeah, we need to change that W to an E, so, and I just looked at my thing here, and the W is right next to the E, so.
Oh, a keyboard?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I gotta look,
So that-
probably just hit the wrong key
Out,
there, so.
spelled, or, written out with the acronym after it.
Yeah, it would be nice for everybody to know what CASE stands for anyhow, so.
Yep.
Okay,
Continuing, different policy, moving up to page 50.
50?
50.
So that's policy, the GBNB, JHFE.
I'm seeing here, but at some point when we find it, it has the phraseology and, this is proposed, so I know it's coming forward, but insert license administrator position title. Oh, it's on the second paragraph. It writes insert license administrator position title, and I thought perhaps maybe that's just because this is proposed, but as we're proposing it, we might want to actually choose what position title we're putting in there.
That's my bad for not, I missed that one.
Okay, no, I just-
So thank you for bringing that up.
And just to clarify, it is a school administrator. Is the language that we decided on.
Yeah, no, I figured as much, but just thought we might want to clean that up. So good to move on to the next one.
okay.
So page 44.
GBNA, JHFF.
And so it looks like mid-page, there's a paragraph that begins, nothing prevents the district from conducting its own investigation, unless another agency requests to lead the investigation or requests, so I guess the language I think will probably be fine, but just my reading of that implies that obviously nothing prevents us from doing that, but it says unless another agency requests to lead the investigation. I'm not sure that any agency would request to lead the investigation that we wouldn't want to, but the way I read it implies that we kind of, I guess, forego our rights. If another agency said, hey, we want to lead it, then we kind of self-prevent ourselves from conducting the investigation. That's just how I read the language. so.
Yeah, but the name of it is suspected sexual conduct report procedures and forms.
Right.
So I'm thinking that the other agency would be law enforcement.
I am too.
But I hate to make any assumptions, but that's the way I read it, is that
Yeah.
another agency request to lead, that would be law enforcement. I can't see anybody else that would jump in there and want to lead an investigation on something like that.
And that's fine. I just, the way I read, I agree. I don't think it's likely. And if everyone else feels good about it, I just didn't know if we wanted to change the language.
Well, I don't think we want to narrow the language down like that, because if there is somebody else that wants to come in that's maybe not a local law enforcement, or, it depends on the situation of everything.
Yep.
We want to keep it as broad as we can, but yet keep it focused. So I think that they do a pretty good job of that by allowing, if somebody else wants to come in and take the lead, then, they can. So that's the way I read it. And I guess a lot of it is the intent, or the intent that the board feels when we adopt a policy of, how we read it when we adopt it. So.
I read it to say that we will take the responsibility of doing this unless somebody else comes in and it really probably better suited to do it, but we will make sure something gets investigated this time.
Sure, yeah. Okay. then I'm fine with no change. I just wanted to just offer my interpretation of how I read it, make sure we weren't putting ourselves in a situation that we didn't want to find ourselves.
Yeah, correct.
So, as a district. And then the last one was top of page 42. And it's just the language. The district will provide to employees at the time of hire, which I think is fine, but or to a contractor, agent, or volunteer at the time of beginning service, the following. And I'm just not sure if we provide every contractor who's coming in to make a repair to our building this fall, you know, but by putting the word, we will provide it to them, then we have to make sure we're providing it. Instead of maybe, you know, we'll provide this to employees and, you know, shall make available to, which I see, I think, in the second policy associated with this, the administrative rule. I just wanted to make sure, again, those are the pieces where if we as a district are saying we will do something, I don't want to put I don't want to put an undue burden. You know, someone comes in to fix a toilet. That's a contractor, and we will provide this to them as opposed to it's available for them. So maybe we're doing it already, I don't know. And maybe contractor is specific to an education type contractor from LBL as opposed to the way I read the word contractor.
A contractor is a contractor,
So,
you know, not specific.
And then same with volunteers, you know, that means every parent volunteer, technically, will provide this to them. And I just think that's maybe untenable, or as opposed to make available. Certainly think employees, absolutely, at the time of hire, this is part of their training, and
Yeah, all employees have to go through that training at the beginning of the year, so.
so it's just that word will, I just. Those are the ends of my comments. Page 42, it's the top, very top.
It's the third page of the first policy, the GB, NEA, JHFF.
So do we want to pull that one out while we do the language on it? I think that'd probably be the best thing, rather than approving it and then having to come back and redo it. So we'll remove, well, who made the motion?
I originally.
Okay, then maybe you can withdraw this policy here.
Sure, we're going to withdraw policy GBNAA/JHFF from the motion approved to allow for modification.
Okay.
Is that change yes, so if I could just interject, I believe our understanding of will provide to was making it available to them. So by having it in an online format where it's available to them, it has been provided for them. It doesn't necessarily mean a printed physical copy will be handed over.
Okay.
That was from my notes, our interpretation of that.
So you're on the policy committee.
Yes, so if we
Good.
say.
That's good. I'm
So
glad
if
that you bringing that up so that we can.
Yeah, if we make it clear to our volunteers, which I will say, I don't know if we do, we probably do, that there are policies available online. I've been a volunteer in the district for so long, I must confess, I think at this point, I just operate like muscle memory, when I fill it all out again. I probably should slow my roll on that a little bit, but that was, I believe, was our interpretation, because the same sentence is in multiple places on the similar topics, whether it's, you know, hazing and bullying, or the suspected sexual contact. I think they have the same language.
Okay, so do we want to do anything?
I'm comfortable with that interpretation as district, as long as that meets, you know, the letter of ORSs and all the things. I think it's great. I just didn't want to put our district staff in a place where we're directing them to do something by policy that is very difficult for them to do, given all their other duties. So I'm fine with that interpretation.
And one of the questions I think I want to ask, Jennifer, I'm looking at you, is with our insurance, because our insurance has a piece in this also of making sure that our contractors, you know, that we don't have contractors in a space alone with students.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what we've had fire sprinkler people in that just know where to go. And we've said, no, we just can't do that anymore. And so rather than having to put somebody to shadow them for the length of their work. We have, excuse me, we just made the recommendation, unless it's absolutely impossible, that we don't have contractors come in when students are present. And so we've taken some of that out of the mix, but is there anything in that Pace might want to weigh in on?
Good questions. Ask them.
That's the only thing that I can think of is, do we want to, because it's insurance tied, also go that degree to be able to make sure that we're clear on the connection there?
So we'll probably go ahead and pull this one out.
That might not be a bad idea, just to make sure that we're, I mean, even if our interpretation is good, I think it would be good to make sure
Check
that,
with Pace.
that we've got that base covered.
Okay. So you're gonna
So
withdraw,
that was withdrawn,
okay,
and the other changes.
So like I said, I think if we're gonna draw the policy, we can withdraw the AR that goes along with it then, to make sure that the
Yeah.
AR doesn't have any.
Because those are both in there.
so that's the GBN AAJH policy and AR. So that leaves the GBN ABJHFE and the policy and the AR and the IKF policy. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, motion passes 5-0. Meeting closure, board reports and things.
As always, excuse me, I think we just need to thank our district employees, all of them, for doing such a great job keeping things going, especially under the extra stress that we've had the last couple of years. Wow. I think, as was evidenced by the reports tonight, that I think that all the schools are doing really well. And without the support of classified administrators, teachers, it wouldn't go that way. So everybody's doing a great job.
I would just echo what you were saying. I mean, kudos. I really appreciated your board reports. Those are so nice to hear all the good news. And I know that those good news things happen because of the other people working in your buildings. So thank you so much.
And as a PES parent, unfortunately, it's gone, so I can't thank him, but the parent teacher conferences were wonderful. The fifth grade, they were student led. So getting to physically be in the classroom for what might be the last time for me as an elementary school parent was really nice. And getting to walk through the hallway and see those science projects, one of the photos that was up there of the planets, and this might sound a little cheesy, but like seeing the little kid handwriting on the posters and seeing that, you know, how much they're learning and how enthusiastic they were, because of course you see other kids showing their parents and they're all excited. And that was really fun. There's also a joke of the week in the hallway at the elementary school. So if you're ever there, check it out. Lillian said it was blank. My daughter Lillian said it was blank for a little while, and everybody thought that that was like even funnier than the normal jokes because there was no joke and that was the joke. So, and I also got to chaperone a field trip with them over to the museum and got to see the district artwork, which it's my favorite museum exhibit probably every time. And one of the students at the Willamette Academy had actually had prints made of their artwork, and they were selling them as a fundraiser for Ukrainian refugees. So, and I did not bring that artist's name, but I did buy one of the prints. So hopefully they might even still be for sale in the museum gift shop right now. But that was really wonderful to see. Also, just all of the creative energy at the museum and the amazing different ways that our teachers across all of the age ranges are teaching the concept of art and how to look at things in a different way. It's always enriching to me.
So I can put Aaron Gudge down as a surrogate parent.
I want to certainly echo all that from the board members with regards to our staff, and additionally the volunteers and community members. I know a lot of what was shared at the school and the fundraisers and different pieces were not only staff putting all that work in, but a lot of volunteers in our community. Whether that's parent club volunteer, just a community member volunteer, and then also potentially a financial contributor to all those efforts. And I know that, you know, the various activities, whether they be plays, concerts, art, job-a-thons that our community members contribute to, I think really demonstrates the commitment to our schools and support of our schools and you know, the community and volunteers for their efforts.
Okay, and I would like to echo what everybody else says, which I always say that all of the staff at the schools, I mean, not one or the other, it just takes all of it to be a great district, and I think we have a great district. The other thing I'd like to mention is the Gary Cox Memorial Warrior Golf Scramble, which is coming up on Saturday, May 14th. Just so, you know, we get it out there.
I have an email out to Kevin to get our sponsorship, because we discussed as a board sponsoring a role.
Okay.
So I'll get back to you as soon as I get back from Kevin, but our plan as we were independently as people.
Yeah.
It's nice, thank you.
So I just wanted to throw that out there, and you know, I mean, for all the winter sports, they're very successful and everything. So seems like the staff is doing a great job and the kids are doing a great job. So that's gotta hand it to everybody. And then, of course, Christopher for volunteering. We very much appreciate that. That's a very important thing that we need is that levy. So yeah, so anyhow, that's all like that. So, all right, next meeting agenda items. Does anybody have anything that they need to see on the agenda? I mean, we're gonna go through and put, of course, the other stuff on there, so. Any requests? Adjourn. Thank you very much.